Hello and welcome to Recovery Weekly, an interactive weekly program used to guide you, the family member of an individual with a substance abuse problem, through the process of recovery. I'm your host, Scott Kaline, joined as always by my co-host, Ian Koch. Ian is a licensed drug and alcohol counselor as well as an internationally certified addiction specialist for NortheastAddictionConsultants.com. Thanks for joining me, Ian.
Hi.
This week on the show we have Cali Estes, otherwise known as the Addictions Coach. Cali has been coaching individuals affected by drug, alcohol, and food addiction for the past 15 years. She is internationally certified as a drug and alcohol counselor and has received her bachelor's degree in psychology as well as her master's degree in criminal psychology. Thanks for joining us today, Cali.
Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Now, I saw on your website, theaddictionscoach.com, that you offer a vast number of coaching services, including one where you actually go and live with the individuals that are addicted. Could you tell us a little about that and some of your other coaching options that you provide?
Sure. Something like that is set up for the individual that doesn't have time for rehab or has a demanding schedule. CEOs, actors, actresses, musicians. So I actually go, live in with them, go to set, help them through the day, help them through the office setting, whatever they need to help them get off the drugs and the alcohol versus having to go to an inpatient rehab program where they may or may not have time. Plus, I have a lot of high-profile clients where they can't go to a setting like that because they may see someone they know. For example, a police officer who maybe have arrested somebody and he goes to rehab and he runs into somebody that's court mandated that he put there. That's an uncomfortable situation. It's not good for either party. So then I would work with the police officer in that sense to facilitate helping him through his recovery in a non-traditional way. I also do individual sessions. I do Skyping sessions. I do phone sessions in person. I've been on tour with musicians. I've worked with actors and actresses, etc. So it just depends on what they need, and I kind of tailor it to their needs.
So it's more of an accommodation than, for the busy lifestyle over, the person that can take a month off from whatever they have going on. So this would even work for maybe a parent that, has kids at home and. Okay, very good.
It's like bringing the rehab to them, and it's more intensive and it's more individualized. So when you go to rehab, you're going with the sense that you're going to be there with other individuals and you're going to have group therapy. And sometimes that works great, but for some people who don't have that time or that availability with the other clientele that's there, it's easier for me to come to them, and then it's one-on-one, individualized, sort of in your face, in person, very intense.
You said about how sometimes it works great, the group therapy and stuff like that. Right now though it's not. Statistics really show that 50% of the people relapse the day they get out. Maybe 1 of 30 stay sober for a year, and yet as soon as the right thing is said to the mother or father, the MasterCard comes out and their kid's off in treatment, and they want to know why he's not sober when he leaves. And what I've seen is when people are, quote, mandated into treatment or shy, they hide in the back and they don't ever get that one-on-one help that people really need because they're hiding, they're not necessarily interested, or their personality doesn't allow for so.
That's correct. And then the other problem with that type of a setting exactly is that they're short-staffed, they're understaffed, and they're constantly putting people in the rehab setting. And you've got one therapist to 15 clients who's got 10 or 11 groups a week and supposed to do individuals, and that therapist burn out.
And don't forget paperwork too.
Correct. So then you have a client who goes in and spends more time, romancing the drugs and talking about all the things. And the number one thing I hear is, I sent my kid to rehab, kid being 18, 25, and they came out and learned how to use more drugs than before they went in. So that's one of the things I alleviate with. They're not going to meet those people. They're not going to meet, people that are court mandated, drug dealers, et cetera, et cetera. And in a rehab setting, it's not all the same drug. So you might go in for pills and learn how to shoot heroin. And that's a big problem. So with me coming in working individually, that piece is completely alleviated.
That's good. Now, I know that you have another option of it's called a coach accompaniment, where you actually, if they need so, that you'll actually accompany them to various events that, you know, in normal cases I bet they would use at or drink or whatever. And this is, but mostly for early sobriety, people need this, or do they continue? You know, will you get a call from someone that has been sober 2 years, like, I don't know, this seems like it could be a very testy situation for me?
I've had all calls. People up to 4 years in sobriety, where the situation, they're going to be put in a high risk situation, and they know it's high risk, and they know in advance to call and say, I really need your help. I can't take my sponsor. I don't have a sponsor. I do CEO business meetings all the time, where they're going to a bar for lunch, and they know everybody coming in is going to order alcohol. And they know that the pressure is to order alcohol. So I'll go pose as the personal assistant, the PR girl, and, you know, kind of sit with them. Can I get you anything, Mr. Jones? I'm kind of coaching them and giving them the out. That way it looks bad on me, not them, if they don't have a drink. I brought them a diet soda. I'll go get it in a rocks glass, you know, things like that. So it appears as though they have a rum and Coke, but they really don't. So it alleviates their need to go to the bar and have to, you know, handle the client, juggle the sobriety, too many issues at once, take the stress off of them. Yeah, biggest call I get is weddings. Of course, everybody's drinking at a wedding, everybody's partying. I can come in as a family friend, I can come in as a cousin from somewhere nobody knows, and kind of facilitate the situation.
Interesting. Because when you first started talking about this, I pictured you like in the back of the room with sunglasses and a hat, with a walkie-talkie or something. But that's really interesting.
The earpiece in, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Just don't pick it up. Just don't drink it. Just don't drink it.
Do a lot of coaches do that?
Some, it's more, you'll see more smaller events, like little things here and there, hour here and there, but I'm available to do the bigger things where it might be a longer period of time that they may need somebody consistently.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, what are some of the ways that your coaching approach differs from, and like I mean, we've already gone into this a little bit, as far as the group setting versus, you know, hands-on, you and the other individual, but what else can they expect, you know, if they're looking for a specialized treatment plan?
I'm non-traditional, meaning I don't subscribe to any one school of thought. When they go to rehab, each rehab may be different. They might subscribe to Gorski model or Rogerian, Freudian, whatever, and that's the model. And if it doesn't fit for the client, it doesn't matter, and the rehab says, well, you're not working the program. That's not what I do. I have clients that don't believe in AA and NA, that don't do 12 steps. I have clients that do. So I work with the client and see what their needs are. I always talk about nutrition. I always talk about fitness. I always talk about vitamins, supplements, post-acute withdrawal, getting their body up to optimal performance so they don't feel the need for the other things. I talk about fun. I talk about extracurricular activities. But then I also talk about what got them here in the first place. So it's sort of like a holistic approach, but it's also multidimensional versus here's a workbook, read this workbook, you know, and you're in denial, and you're in denial, and you're in denial. There's a lot more to it. And I take the client and I work with what their specific needs are and their specific goals are and kind of take them through the whole process.
The nutrition is really important and underlooked. You know, in some of the holistic stuff, I mean, the most effective treatment for depression would be exercise. You know, the most effective treatment for anxiety is meditation. And we've gotten into this place of society where it's a quick fix, give me a pill, give me a pill, give me a pill, yet we don't ever fix the problem. And what's so good about a holistic approach is that you set people up with tools that are lifelong tools. You know, that really are lasting. There's a detox down in Georgia, and I can't think of the name of it. And it's a 10-day detox, and they do all their detox with vitamins. And when I first heard about it, I was kind of, that's weird, that's interesting. But, you know, as I talked to them and I started to understand the program, it makes way more sense than using Suboxone or Bupe or methadone to detox someone, because when the addict's abusing their body, not only mentally, but physically, and putting in these chemicals, people don't eat right. You know, people don't get the proper exercise. They don't go out in the sun and exercise. So it's like a way of like really kickstarting the body, getting some of those nutrients back in. It really, really is important. You know?
Absolutely. And I've done some work with that doctor that actually does the vitamin.
What's his name?
I can't remember at the moment because I'm on the spot. I'm sitting here trying to remember it. He does vitamin therapy. It's 10 days,
Yes.
and they do an injection, and it literally cleans your system out. It takes post-acute withdrawals gone, and it's amazing, and it's FDA approved.
It's not.
But it's not something.
It's really interesting.
And it's not something rehabs are willing to take in yet, which is interesting. Even more, they're more willing to give Xanax and methadone, and like you said, Buspar. Take this, take this, take this, and the addict comes out wanting more than what they went in with, and that's a huge problem.
Or they go out wanting something different.
Yeah.
And I think you notice a lot when it comes to nutrition that the individual who's been abusing drugs and alcohol, they also drink a lot of coffee, to say they are hungover the night before, they'll overcompensate with coffee, or they'll eat bad foods because it's quick and easy, and they just like trying to get everything together, and those are just bad habits on top of bad habits. So you're completely undoing a life that is killing this person, and all they're trying to do is maintain. So just undoing that, I think, is the hardest part of the whole process. Yeah.
Oh yeah, every rehab that you go to has the vending machine, and they have Skittles, and they have Snickers bars, and they have honey buns, and they have popcorn, and Doritos, and soda. And it's like that's what you see all day long, vending machine and cigarettes. And that's what they do. And then they come out with this junk food habit, a nicotine addiction, and then when you approach it, they say, let me deal with one thing at a time. Well, no, you have to deal with all of it, because if you don't, you're not addressing the issue, which is overabundance and the wrong foods, the wrong things. Of course, it's wearing your body down.
Yeah. And if you're going to drink a lot of caffeine and you're losing sleep at night, you're going to blame it on detoxing. But really, it could be a whole nother problem now that you've created for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you do you actually prescribe meal plans for your clients, or?
By law, I can't because I'm not a registered dietitian,
Okay.
but I make recommendations.
Oh.
I have a nutritional background. I have a huge fitness background. So I will say, let's take a look at what you're eating. And a lot of them, breakfast, they say, oh, Pop-Tarts. Well, Pop-Tarts is not a food. Let's talk about what is a food. Let's talk about eggs, and let's talk about, complex carbs and sweet potatoes. And usually they kind of sit there and glaze over as I'm talking nutrition, but I like to give them suggestions. And then I'll say, write down, what you like, and I teach them how to pick and choose different things that make them feel good. And teach them that if they fuel their body, they're not going to have as many cravings throughout the day for other things.
Excellent. Now, I read on your site that you've had your own struggles with weight issues and an addiction to diet pills. Do you feel that experience makes you uniquely qualified to do the work you do and understand how the addict suffers?
I was addicted to Ripfuel, which was the Mahawang Guarana ephedra stack back in 23, yeah. So it just come out, and I was overweight, and it worked beautifully. But I would shake all day long. And the reason I had to quit, I went to the doctor. I was having heart pain. The doctor said, you now have a heart murmur, which you didn't have. And if you continue doing this, you're going to die. Well, that was enough for me to go, oh, my God, this one product is going to kill me. I'm 23 years old. It's crazy. So I stopped taking it. But for a year, my heart would race. I'd be sound asleep, and I'd wake up with heart palpitations and night sweats, and my body couldn't regulate its temperature. And it was horrible. And I thought, wow, this is just one drug. Imagine what a heroin addict goes through. Imagine what these harder drugs, this is just something I bought at GNC. Mm-hmm. So from there, it was like, wow, I understand post-acute withdrawal. I understand the need and the desire to look a certain way or want a certain drug. Once I was on it, I had to have it. And it was cool because I could eat pizza, and I could eat French toast, and I could eat a whole bunch of food and never put a pound on it, which was, part of the addiction. And then, I can relate to a lot of people because I went through that. But a lot of people can also relate to other people too that have gone through that. So it does help.
Do you work with a lot of folks with eating disorders?
I see it as a secondary. I have been a primary eating disorder therapist, but I got out of that and went more into the drug and alcohol. But there are a lot of eating disorders as well. I see a lot of bulimia, some anorexia here and
Do you
there.
see more women or more men?
Recently, there's been a rise in the gay population of men, but mostly it's always been women to this point. But now I'm seeing more men that are, metrosexual and gay men as well that are trying to keep up with society and this image and
There is, and I kind of want to veer off topic a little bit and talk about this because we're talking about coaching as an alternative. A major problem that I see starting is in the new wave of extended care programs. So for folks who watch this who don't know, extended care programs it's kind of like the after rehab, you go to an extended care program. It's more than a sober living. There's usually like a counselor, there's some structure. You stay for, a few months, 6 months. And a lot of these programs, for the guys, they're giving out gym memberships and they're encouraging people to go to the gym. But what it's creating in some, obviously some circles is the need to have bigger muscles, the need to be better looking so the girls are more attracted to them. And that becomes the primary focus of their recovery, isn't, getting well and dealing with an internal condition, but it's I need to look good on the outside so then I feel good on the inside, which is really, opposite of what needs to happen. So I've seen a lot of men who actually have eating disorders, but it's masked by, oh, well, I'm just going to the gym with my buddies. I take a protein shake because it makes my muscles bigger. And I actually, to be honest, while we're talking about personal problems, there was a point where in my early recovery where I switched, I stopped using drugs and alcohol and I started working out, where I was going to the gym twice a day. I was down to 6.4% body fat. My family's body type does not have a six pack. It was completely shifted. I was deadlifting 365 pounds.
wow.
I would spend over an hour every night preparing food for the next day because I didn't want, too many carbs and the right amount of protein. And then I would drink 5 protein shakes a day. And my whole life was really revolved around losing more weight, getting bigger muscles, which is the exact same thing where if I was trying to get cocaine or alcohol or whatever else it may be, my whole life was revolved around that. So I'm seeing it in a sense of as people move into recovery and they put substances down, they find these other, or socially, especially in the guys' circle, right? Bigger muscles means you're more accepted. So it's almost like a socially accepted addiction that is really causing some internal damage on the soul and the human, the person, So wanted to kind of throw that out there.
It is one of the things I'm seeing. They're trading one addiction for another, which in turn becomes the gym. And I see that the rise in steroids, the anabol, the D-bol, and the testosterone. And their theory is, well, I can go to the doctor and get it legally, therefore it's not a drug. Well, yeah, it is. It's a drug you become dependent on, and it's a drug that changes your body. So I do have several clients now that have traded exactly what you said, traded drugs for the gym. And it isn't just the gym. It's the gym with the prep and the 20,000 things from GNC and Vitamin Shop, and this does this, and this does this, and they know every product, and they're all counterintuitive to the next product, and they're taking all this stuff and teaching them that that's the exact same addictive behavior that they did with illegal drugs is very difficult because they don't see it that way. So then, yeah, you're right. You have a whole new set of addictions.
And they also have that new diagnosis known as orthorexia, I think it is, healthy eating disorder, where people just take it to the nth degree. And some of the people are raw vegans, which is fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's all you can eat. I mean, there's a lot of deficiencies in that where they don't even see because they're like, I can't eat meat, I can't do it. I'm eating all this clean food, and yet they're lacking in certain departments that they don't, even understand because they're not a registered dietitian. So they're just thinking, well, how could I be doing wrong if I'm just eating exactly how, man was made, blah, blah, blah. So they need to just be informed, I think, to what exactly they're doing to themselves. And this whole perfectionist manner that I think is what they're trying to achieve no matter what they do in life. They want to make sure that they're, really overdoing it so they can get the best results, which isn't the case. You don't get the best results from going way too extreme. But what advice do you have to give families who may be watching this right now and thinking, this all sounds great, but nothing will convince my loved one to get help?
Well, you never know until you try. That's the first thing. And you never know if the person really wants help. And the families are generally too close to the addict themselves to make a difference sometimes. Because that's the first person the addict will lash out at. But if you bring an unbiased party in who says, hey, you may be out of control, they have a whole different perspective. So bringing someone in to help usually works. And then I also work with families too, where I'm coaching the family on how to deal with the addict in early recovery and how to deal with the addict in addiction that doesn't want to get help. And what do I do in this scenario? And how do I handle this? And teaching families, you financially cannot continue to contribute to the self-destructive behavior. It's extremely difficult because the family wants to help, but they're not really helping. They're destroying the person, and they can't see that. And then when I come in and show it to them, they're amazed. Wow, I didn't realize I was causing this or doing this. And then it shifts the didactic, and then the addict generally wants help because once you cut off the financial, piece of it, they have nowhere to go. They literally have to get help. And then at that point, you can sit with them and say, you're out of options. And if you want to continue doing this, your families put their foot down so that, it's A or B. And eventually they'll come and say, okay, I think I'm ready. But they will come on their own time.
Wow. Were we just discussing that a little bit, Ian? Last week? Yeah, that's very good. So I guess it's across the board now. I want to thank you, Cali, for coming on our show. Now, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in your services?
My website is theaddictionscoach.com, and my number is 786-709-0479. I'm in Miami, but I'm international, so I can go anywhere.
Okay. And make sure you tune in next week when we have Dr. Carol Clark on. And until then, I wish you and your family nothing but the best in your journey through recovery.